Well, welcome back, all my Be in Demand listeners. I have today Jeremy DeMerchant, and if you've been following me and listening to my podcast for any time, you've probably already heard another episode that he has been on. So he's returning, but today's going to be returning, and we're going to be talking about the work that we've done together because he's been a student of mine, a client of mine, and I have to say, like you're not going away.
You're stuck with me.
Yeah, we're stuck together, so to speak. But I've really enjoyed working with him. But I just wanted to bring him on because he's got a very different journey, and reasons why he's using speaking. And we're even going to talk about some of the other effects and products and ideas that can stem from speaking. So, Jeremy, thanks for jumping on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's just start off with, where were you before we started working together?
So before we started working together, I'll back up even further. Before I started my business, I knew that I needed to get better at public speaking. And I'll back way up and say, I don't know, 2011, I think, I saw Tony Robbins speak in this Halifax Metro Center in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And at one point, he had the entire audience up on their feet, jumping in unison. And if you've never had the opportunity to experience it, I will tell you it is the most electrifying moment you will ever experience. And while I was experiencing it, hoping that the place wasn't going to fall apart because there was a pile of people there, um, like the energy was so intense, and I realized that if I wanted to be able to make an impact, I needed to be able to communicate. And to get, I think there was something like 1,500 people in that building. To get 1,500 people to create such a level of united energy was so powerful, and I instantly ran out and started looking for Toastmasters. I had heard that it would help with your confidence, and I was terrified. I had never spoken to a group that wasn't my own sales team at that point, and so I was building the confidence, but I didn't have the structure.
Yeah.
And I knew I could move people one on one. I could have that emotional shift. But when I got in front of 10 or 12 or 30 or, well, higher numbers terrified me at the time. I got really shy, and my speaking went from this to this, and nobody could hear me because I was so shy. Like my voice just shrunk. And
Wow.
so, Toastmasters helped build my confidence. But being able to give a 7-minute speech versus being able to give a 45-minute keynote or run a 60-minute webinar or run a 3-hour workshop are completely different beasts.
Yeah, they
And,
are.
and I and I had no idea how to do any of those before I met you.
Yeah, and I get that question a lot, when people are considering hiring me or joining one of my programs. It's like, well, maybe I'll just do Toastmasters. But it's really easy to hide in Toastmasters too, because it's a club
Mm-hmm.
and you got to have the courage to sign up to give a speech.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you are speaking, you do have to follow their structure because that's how they're, I don't want to say grading you, but you do have an evaluator. So they're
Yep.
evaluating you on the Toastmaster structure, which can be very different in, actually, not that it can be, it is very different in the real world. Would you agree with that?
Totally. And to be clear, like I've been the president of a Toastmasters club every year since I joined. I've been area director, division director. Like I love Toastmasters. I eat, sleep, and breathe Toastmasters. But I'm also very aware of the limitations of it. It's great for building that confidence, like I mentioned. It's great if you are the wallflower and you want to pull yourself into the crowd. But once you've got that confidence in the structure, as far as giving a 7-minute speech and understanding the value of people, having your authority built and things like that, then you need a little bit more to shift people's thinking to realize, hey, one, he's got enough influence that I want to listen to him, and two, him or her, I guess, or two, how do I deliver enough value that's actionable content? So in Toastmasters, we'll say, look, have a call to action at the end, and that's great. But if somebody pays you $5,000 to give a speech. You want more than a call to action at the end.
Right. You have to, I mean, like we're talking now, we're diving into like it's the meeting planner's job to make sure that you move the audience, that the audience is going to take some sort of action. Mm-hmm. You know, like there's something that happens after you speak.
Yeah, exactly. There's in the process, there's this emotional shift for the audience, but then like, does it end after the speech is done? Like, is that where the impact stops? Because if it does, well, you need Laurie-Ann. That's, but and if it doesn't, then you've got a business opportunity.
Right. And that's what, like that's one of the things that I emphasize with my clients is like, we want to make sure that that we convert the audience. Cause a lot of times I'll have people who, do sales calls with me. I'm like, oh, well, I've spoken before. I don't need you. And I'm just like, I always ask like, so how much of the audience do you convert? Oh, none. Oh, okay. I guess that's working. That's right? Why we need to work together.
Right. Exactly. And so when I first started, I was all gung ho, I'm starting my sales consulting business. I'm going to help people sell more. And I built up some confidence through Toastmasters, and I booked a speaking engagement at a local real estate brokerage. And the guy said, we want someone to come on and talk about sales for social media. I was like, great, I can do that. And I was the guy that said yes to everything and then figured out how after. He says, great, how much is it going to cost me? And being a little bit business savvy, I said, you know what, if you let me pitch, I'll do it for free. I had 60% of the real estate office in this room. And I had committed to 2 hours. And I went in and I ended up going over. I got to give more value. The more value, more impact was the formula in my head. And this was before you and I had worked together. And I went on for about 3 hours. I overshot my time by an hour.
Wow.
I made an offer at the end. You know who bought? The only person who left after an hour because she had things to do. She came back and said, hey, I don't know what you offered, but I think I want to buy it. Because in that first hour, she had enough value to decide that she wanted to work with me. By hour 3, I had burned everybody out and they weren't interested. So I think I made, $1,500 that day, but it could have been thousands of dollars if I had realized the right system for speaking and converting an audience.
Yeah. Yeah. And we worked on your close later on, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
What happened then?
Well, there was a couple things, because one talk, which is still the most powerful one that I have right now, I got up and actually started giving it at a few places for free again. Let me pitch and I'll do it for free. And the first time I did it, and I'll be honest, there was a time like, if you're watching this and you want to go at it alone, like, be my guest, but I will tell you this. There was one time that I was literally booed off a stage because I wasn't making an impact. And it scared me off of stages for over a year. And then I worked with Laurie-Ann. We worked out a talk because I had an opportunity. I moved to a new city, and it was this huge traumatic thing for me. Like, and you hear getting booed. No, literally, I had somebody say, if you're not going to do this and this, you might as well get off the stage. Like, that's how bad it was. And there was many reasons for it. But ultimately, I wasn't delivering what they wanted. And so after working with Laurie-Ann, and we had this system structured, I had 10 minutes to give a talk.
Yeah.
And it went so well that it turned into a $15,000 client.
I love hearing that.
And it was just having a system that, like, having it so the message landed, and then having a conversion point at the end where you implement the strategies that make the magic happen. So
you're using this particular presentation over and over again, aren't you? Yeah. So that's one thing that always surprises people. They're like, really? I only need one talk? And I'm like, yeah, because you get really good at giving that one talk.
And I was even invited to speak to Toastmasters. So I tweaked the talk. So the talk is 3 steps to avoid getting ghosted by your prospects. The Toastmasters version is 3 steps to avoid getting ghosted by your club guests. It's the same content. I
Yeah.
changed some slides. In fact, they even translated it for me because their audience was bilingual. So there's a French and English slides going up as I'm speaking, but it's the exact same stuff, and it's phenomenal. Like people, the same Toastmasters group has asked me to come back year after year, giving the same talk, even though they're recorded each time.
Mm-hmm.
They want it
There's
again.
something beautiful. People want to hear it over and over again, and it doesn't bother them. It's like seeing a movie that you absolutely love. You know what the ending is, but you want to like experience the movie again. And it's the same thing with delivering the same talk. One, you're not always going to be speaking to the exact same people that are in that audience. You could actually be called back, like you're saying, to these Toastmasters, and you're delivering the same speech, and there's people there that have heard you speak before, but they love to hear it again. It's also a great reminder.
Oh, exactly. If you and reinforce those messages,
Mm-hmm.
then one, they're remembering the first time they heard it from you. So it's rebuilding that authority. They're like, oh, right, I heard from him a couple years ago, and I didn't implement what he said. Oh, man, I should pay attention this time.
That's
Right. So
right.
that repetition is so vital.
Right. Right. And you're a different person every time that, one that you're delivering it, but also the person that's showing up and hearing it again, they're just a different person, like wherever they are on their journey in life. There was something else that we were talking about beforehand about what you're doing with how you are taking one of your talks and turning it into a book.
So, yeah, and in fact, this morning I was having a planning session with my executive assistant, and I said, you know what, I've been talking about a book for years, and I actually went back into my Google Drive and found a document already built out, and a chunk of it was just the key bullet points from my 3 steps to avoid getting ghosted talk. And I went, oh, yeah, it makes total sense for a book. And you know what? We're going to make the book, and we're going to make it a course at the same time.
There you
It's
go.
the same content.
Right.
So if you want to read it, you want to watch the videos, whatever you want to do. You want to pay $20 for the physical book, you want to pay $2,500 for the course, whatever works for you, and it's all available. And the beautiful thing is that as long as the book and the course go a little deeper than your 10-minute or 45-minute talk, or create there's a little bit more, then it doesn't matter that there's repetition. Like if anyone's ever listened to Tony Robbins, I promise you've heard the same quote more than once.
Yes.
If you listen to any of Jim Rohn's stuff, everyone knows Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. He didn't only ever say that once.
Right. Repetition. And it's like delivering your signature speech over and over again. Yeah. But, and I've written a couple of books, and I did it the other way. I wrote the book and then started speaking on the book, because the book became like my greatest, business card, essentially. Mm-hmm. And you, along with some other clients that I have just like, here's a speech that I've given. It's doing really well. Let's turn this into a book, because then your audience can buy the book on their way out.
Yep. Or
if they're hearing you virtually or on some high-end mastermind, they'll guarantee they're going to go to Amazon and they'll buy your book. And, like now it's just like, just like I always say, speaking is the gift that keeps on giving. Mm-hmm. And that can be in the form of a book. And then just like you said, like you're going to create a course.
Yeah. And I even experienced the other side of it as well, where I do actually have a book, but I wouldn't consider it the book, right? It's a co-authored book that I did, but having that bestseller status has helped me get on more stages. And even if the people booking the talk didn't know about the bestseller status, although they always do, because I make sure they do, it also helps your audience pay more attention.
Yes.
If somebody in your introduction says, hey, this gentleman's coming up to tell you how to increase your sales, his name's Jeremy, take it away, people are going to go, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But if you come up and say, look, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and has helped people from Santa Monica to Singapore double their sales in as little as a few weeks, suddenly people pay attention.
People are listening. Yes.
And it can be the same message. Like if Bill Gates steps on a stage and you don't know who he is, his message lands a whole lot different.
Right.
Than if you hear his introduction.
Right.
So this stuff, it does. Speaking is the gift that keeps on giving, no matter whether it's a physical stage or a virtual stage. Anyone that's ever interviewed me on a podcast reads my intro, and every single time there's either best-selling author or international best-selling author or number one best-selling author, because I technically fall into all three of those categories. It gets read every single time. It's best-selling author, award-winning speaker, thank you, Laurie-Ann, and founder of Permission to Sell Consulting Group. Like, that's how the intro goes.
And that's in the intro, but it's also inside your speech too.
Exactly.
For the people who weren't paying attention to the intro, because there are some people, and I have like a system, a format, a structure for speeches so that it does draw people in and it gives them a reason to keep listening. And then you share like your brilliance, and then close. And I also taught you how to do that, like selling by planting little seeds, especially for those places that say, no, you can't pitch.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I got a way around that.
Oh, man. And actually in that $15,000 sale, it was from a place where I really couldn't pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I used, one of your strategies, and there was a follow-up conversation, but I mean, ultimately he ended up texting for free download.
There you go.
Conversation went
there's always a way to do that. And I can also say, from knowing you for as long as I've known you, that you are so much more confident. Like, you just show up differently. And like, we're just recording this, just the two of us right now, knowing that this is going to go on YouTube, and also the audio is going to go into the podcast. Mm-hmm. But you show up with this, this amazing amount of confidence. It's easy for you now. It's like it's in your DNA now.
It really is. I mean, I'm set up now. Like, I've got the microphone; it lives here, right? And I think there's a difference in mindset as well. If you're going, how do I get ready to give this talk versus being always on? And you're not always on, but if somebody says, "Hey, can I interview you?" Great. My big transition is, let's go make sure I got a colored shirt on.
Right.
Everything else is here.
Right.
And I'm in my same spot, same place. This is exactly where I sit. Every Zoom meeting I have, the same hardware, everything. And the only thing that might change, depending on the audience, I might raise my stand-up desk up and I might stand, depending on what's going on. But for the most part, I'm on and ready to go. And it makes it so there's less room for variables.
Right.
But to the confidence side, you're right. Like, I would have said yes before, but I would have been terrified.
Yeah.
And now I actually, still when I'm in person, transparently, when I'm in person stepping on a stage, I still get the butterflies. I just try to get them flying in formation, but podcasts, nada. I'm just like, it's happening, And it's the same process. It's the same, you still have the message. You still want some kind of call to action. If you can't pitch, you want to bring them into your audience so that you can have some type of follow-up. Same formula.
Yeah,
and
it is.
And it just creates such a long-term opportunity for lifetime value of a client.
There's so many places that we end up using these communication and speaking skills. It's not just for stages or just for podcasts. It can be just one-on-one. With, like a client, like when you're trying to sell somebody, a sales presentation is what I'm trying to say. Like, even during a sales presentation,
even in person, not to overpitch my companies, but for most of you probably don't know, I'm also co-owner of a beard, or like a grooming good company. So beard balm, beard wash, things like that. And last month, well, actually technically November, we started doing these trade shows because it's the holidays. Let's go get some people to have their eye on our product because it's a new product. And we had to figure out on the fly, how do we grab someone's attention when they don't know us? How do we take a setup that probably was a $200 setup and make it compete with people that have multi-$1,000 setups? And it was all in the presentation. How do we capture their attention? How do we build the authority? How do we intrigue them? Mm-hmm. And for this, we made people laugh. Excuse me, dear, do you have a man in your life with a beard? No? Would you like one? We can trip one for you when he's going by, Just keep them laughing. We had people come by and said, I'll buy one because the price of your balm is worth the price of admission for this show.
And, that's such a great opening for, in the speaking world, we say, the more they laugh, the more money you make.
True.
And you just like, that story was a great example of exactly that.
Yeah. And in the month that we did 4 weeks of trade shows. And in the month, we doubled the amount of sales we had made in the previous lifetime of this company.
Wow, that's impressive.
So, and I just became part of it back in February, but it's just, we were able to do a volume that had not been done before. Mm-hmm. And it's just, a launching pad. So now I've got a whole other business that's launching because of speaking. And now I'm going to create an entirely other talk for this other space all about beards and grooming your beard and the YouTube videos and the blog content and the whole thing. And so when people interview me, I have an opportunity to go out and be on other people's platforms, use OPA, other people's audiences
Mm-hmm.
to
My
get
favorite.
to get traction to sell my product.
Yeah.
So it's working for me in at least 2 businesses so far.
Yeah. And when you're saying the same thing over and over again, one, you get really good at it. We've already discussed that, but also you can give that presentation on the fly.
Yeah.
So I know that if somebody called you or sent you an email this morning and said, "Hey, I have an opening in my YouTube live show today at this afternoon at 3 p.m. Can you speak? Can you be there?" When you have that presentation, you can say yes, mm-hmm. because you already know exactly what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And that 3 steps to avoid getting ghosted. That's my back pocket presentation for everything right now. So.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, Jeremy, can you just share with my audience just where they can learn a little bit more about you, your book, the product, the beer bomb?
Oh, yeah. We got.
You might as well just get it all in.
Why not? Right. Here's the Jeremy Show. No. So you can learn more about me at permissiontosell.com. You can check out my podcast and hear me on stage every single week at salesteamrescue.com. And you'll get at least 2 episodes. I think you've been on my show, maybe 3.
I can't remember.
Okay. Well,
but I totally forgot to mention that you had a podcast earlier.
Right? Yeah, that too. Yeah. And I'm using my own audience too. And if you want to learn about Beard Balm, kingsownreserve.com, check it out. Is that it? That's basically it. Everything. Just search my name. I show up all over the place. The first 2 pages of Google are actually me.
Well, we'll have all that information down in the show notes. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find that down in the information as well, along with we'll get you some information how to get on the wait list for his up and coming book.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that too.
The book is en route. I should actually, I got to get that wait list built out because I just made the emotional commitment today that we're going to get the book done. So.
Yes, that's awesome. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Laurie-Ann.